first thing I want to talk about this week, because listeners will be expecting it, is football. And that is, normally we'll look at the last game we played, and last week we had a fantastic win away at Gillingham. Much needed. First win in, 8 games I think we'd been without a win before that. Gillingham hadn't lost since we'd beat them here. So it's kind of a nice close to that, if you want to call it a circle, I guess, for them, 15 unbeaten. We noticed it seems to be a bit of a theme since you joined the club. I'm not attributing this to you, but you can take it, because I would if I was you. Late winners away from home in crucial games seems to be a bit of a theme. We had Walsall a couple of seasons ago with the big turnaround. We had Rochdale last season, which was a massive 3 points. Seems to be around February, March time as well. And then Gillingham on Saturday. I mean, you can go through all the cliches, what that tells you, but of a team, it tells you we have great team spirit. And I think is that something you've noticed this season, especially after the dodgy start we've had, how the players have really come together? And is a late winner, I guess, evidence of that?
Absolutely, and I'd obviously love to take credit for that, but that certainly isn't the case. That is something that I'm very happy to be seeing. We've all seen over the last couple of seasons that we've been in matches where we've played really good football. We've usually been on top in most of those games and just never got the result that we kind of deserved. So what's nice and what I really saw with Glenn and Nick was that change where we have started to be able to not be the best team on the pitch but still get the result, and that to me is really the point I wanted to get to, and I think that's why I really bought into to Glenn and Nick taking that on, and they have a great partnership, and being in a position where the team is able to score points, whether it's a win, a late winner as he said, or even a draw, to top teams away. That is something that I think every manager would be really pleased to be seen. Certainly at Gillingham, it wasn't. Obviously the case was we were the better team. We absolutely were deserving of that win, and that's also great to see. Obviously in terms of the sort of the results up until Gillingham, we had a pretty tough run. I think we'd all agree that. With the teams we had to play, but still, picking up points against really top teams is a great effort, and that to me is always, again, as long as you keep scoring, you've got to keep scoring points to stay in the game. So I'm massively pleased with the fact that we're able to grind some of those games out. Sometimes it might not be pretty, but it's what you do to stay in the league. So I'm really pleased with where it's going. Everyone is aware of where our budget is in comparison to other teams. So the fact that we have to find an edge that keeps us in the game, and that's what I'm seeing, and I'm really pleased about that.
Talk about budgets. I don't want to talk about budgets. There's going to be people listening going, no, don't go there. No. But it's something that we obviously, throughout our history as AFC Wimbledon, we've been, I think, more aware of. Obviously, in times of Wimbledon, we always knew we were a small club punching above our weight in the old Wimbledon FC days of Plough Lane and what have you. I think it's sort of, since becoming AFC Wimbledon, since becoming fan-owned, we've become, every season, a little bit more savvy in terms of playing budgets and stuff like that. We've had in the past talk of the budget table, and where we sit in that. Is this an actual thing? Or is this just something that we sort of...
No, it's an actual thing, yeah, absolutely it is. And it is produced by the EFL, and so we get an indication of where we sit in that table. So it is, and a lot of people say, there's a lot of arguments about, the whole sort of the more you spend in wages, the better your result. On an average scale, yes, and you even it out, yes, that it is absolutely true. There's no denying that statistically, but there are aberrations, obviously, every year, and some teams do consistently perform better than their budget suggests. And that's great.
Yep.
It suggests there's something else at play there. Good management, good training, whatever that might be. They're finding an edge somewhere, and we have to do the same in order to do that, and we typically have. So there's a lot of positives there. But yeah, I get the whole. I don't like talking about budget. At the end of the day, I think you can be smarter. I think certainly in terms of recruitment, there's always the opportunity to put in a better recruitment system, which we've been doing over the last year. Obviously, with Nick Dawes came in and started that process, and we're looking to continue that. He's obviously now switched over into on the management side, but is still bringing that with him, and I think that's a key thing. So I'm very hopeful of the future in terms of our recruitment process and policy, and how that will help to give us an edge as we go forward. I really think it will.
I mean, one of the things, of course, as well has been bring them through our youth academy prospects that have come through. It's so many numbers that have come through recently. I mean, we won't go through them all, but unfortunately today, as we're recording, news just come through to us that Paul Osu is out for the season, which is a big blow. But have you been surprised at his progress this season and how well he's done since he's come in? So he would have come in about October time, I think.
Yeah, I have, to be honest. We sort of saw him, a glimpse of him in pre-season. Obviously, until that he hadn't been in the academy very long. So to suddenly see him in a first team game, performing the way it was very exciting. So it's great when you get finds like that. I think everyone loves that. I think everyone buys into the homegrown talent. Everyone wants to see the younger players doing well, and we're in a position where some people would say we kind of have to play youth talent because of our budget, but I think I'm not sure that's always the case. I think actually our younger players are in the team on merit, and they are, we find that certainly us, when you talk to Glyn, the sort of whole, homegrown and hungry thing is still something that we want to carry on with, and you do see it, and those younger players fighting for their place in the team is exciting for fans as well. So the fact that those younger players understand that if they play, and they play well enough, and they justify their position, they'll get, they'll get the minutes on the pitch, and that's the key thing. And I'm always of the view, age is relative. If a 19-year-old is able to play, and contribute to the team in the same way that a 28-year-old does, then brilliant. They should be playing. Don't think that just age is a barrier to that. So, if you want to get the most out of young players, that you've got to keep them hungry, but again, giving them that pathway and giving them the support around them to achieve, the optimum out of them.
So it's becoming more difficult now, isn't it, to keep hold of your youth products, especially now where you look at a lot of Premiership clubs sort of take volumes of players, don't they, and they can work on the adage that 2% come through, they can have the best kids. Have we looked at a strategy in terms of, 'cause obviously one of the good things is that we're promoting from our academy, and obviously the under-18s this year, as George will know, so he goes and watch the under-18s. We've got another, it looks like a good batch of the under-18s. Is there a strategy in terms of contracts being offered? And obviously we've got to be careful in terms of, I know George was saying that we've lost some players in the academy before they've even got near the first team. Have we looked at a strategy? Because obviously I'm assuming if we can't, we've got, our academy is very good. We looked at something of how we keep those kids, or we make sure if we do lose them, we're rewarded for the work we've done.
Absolutely, and that was something that really got to me, when I got here, was that we probably need to change the way we were giving contracts and the way those contracts were structured, to still give some level of longevity, but they were not in a way that would expose us financially, but that would also motivate them. So you've got to get a balance of all those factors to make sure the contract is just spot on. So what we work on is sort of an escalation system in terms of the amount of games they play, and then they see those increases in their salary, and then creating quite a fairly a good length contract so that we've got them in for a longer period of time and can continue to oversee their development. So you've got to find the right balance, and we have been changing those over the last year. So I'm more hopeful that we'll be able to keep hold of a lot more of the talent, but obviously there's always going to be instances where, particularly when you get in earlier and there's very little you can do to lock players in. You can't lock players in when they're younger, it's against the rules. So you are more exposed, before kind of scholarship and the sort of pro stage. So, whilst it's wonderful you can get players, that are playing for England, that obviously makes them more of a target for other clubs. But, that's the way it goes. And I think one of the knock-on effects is obviously, at the Premier League, with their the PL2 and their development squads that they have there, there's been a lot of discussions about Premier League clubs, disbanding their academies. We effectively become their academies. The younger division teams become their academies. We're doing it for them. So it makes it so we could get to a stage where it makes it quite difficult to keep hold of your really good talent, and there was discussions recently at EFL meetings about how do we protect that, and how did we make it work for both parties. So there's a lot of thought and thinking going into that process at the moment to make sure that the clubs lower down the leagues are protected to a certain extent. But it's not an easy one, and it won't be solved overnight, that's for certain.
You talk about the relevance of senior players in terms of helping the development of the academy players and so forth. There's one player I wanted to speak to you about, Callum Riley. Scored the winner on Saturday against his old club, if I've got that correct.
Yeah.
Certainly seems to be a player that over the course of the season has just got better and better and better, and really I think now he's one of those, we'd miss him if he wasn't there. Again, just any thoughts about how he's developed this season?
Absolutely. I mean, it's interesting. I think when we brought him in at the beginning of the season, we knew he had it in his locker. He'd scored quite a lot of goals, from midfield, and he brought a lot of other qualities that I think we all like seeing. He's no nonsense. Whilst he's got great abilities, he's very committed and a good professional. A really nice guy to have around the team. So, he's fitted in really well here. And absolutely agree with you. His progression, certainly since the first few games, has been brilliant, and I absolutely feel a lot more secure when I do see him in the team. It's not a surprise in the sense that Nick and Glyn were very aware of his capability, but it's great that we're seeing the best of that now. And I hope it continues, because he's, we've obviously got him next year as well. So, he's a part of our plans going forward, and I hope he continues.
Does he factor into, and if you don't want to go down this route, by all means, but does he factor into thinking for potential Player of the Year votes? Have you given any thought to this one so far? Because we are starting to think about it.
I'm sure you are.
We are.
It's quite a way down my list at the moment, actually, with everything that's going on. That's really for others to decide on that one. But there's been some really good performances from a lot of players. He's certainly one of those. But I imagine it's quite a tricky one this year.
Yeah, Stu will vote for Lyle Taylor. He just automatically does. That's what it just. That's just like.
It's been challenging this year, isn't it? The Young Player of the Year award would be interesting, because
100%.
that is going to be
one.
Really
will be the award. That's the one to watch.
I think Riley and stuff like that. I think you need the sort of like the older heads, even though they're not old. No. I think when you look at it,
at my age.
I think if you look at it, Wordsworth's the only player that's over 30. When you look at the whole squad, so it's crazy when you think about that. But what I like about Riley is that he's sort of looking after Jack Rodoni and Argan, because one of my concerns is when you bring the kids through is that they're going to make mistakes. Normally you'll load them out to teams and then make the mistakes in them teams, but they're effectively going to make the mistakes on the job, aren't they? It's the way the side is.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that's where we're really different. I think what you'll notice is a lot of managers are very nervous about playing younger players, because they will make mistakes, and quite often you've seen at other clubs where the young players come in and has made one or two errors and then they don't get in again. They're sort of put back into the development squad or shipped out on loan. I think what we've certainly seen here is players have been allowed to make those mistakes, come back, with the aim of not making them again, and you just want to see those number of mistakes reducing, basically, and that shows you progress. So I think it's very easy to just sort of make an opinion on one appearance, and sort of that player's then saying, okay, we don't think he's good enough based on that one appearance, but anything can happen in a match. There's so many variables, and they can have an off day, so it's difficult. It is difficult for younger players to break into a lot of teams, but because they don't often get offered the chance to make those mistakes and come back from it. So is seemingly where we're different, and it's the key, I think, to being able to realise younger talent.
I think it's a learning curve for us fans as well. I was saying to Nick, some players can, youngsters normally are inconsistent. So if you say 10 games, you probably get a couple of them games where they're not going to hit the levels because they're just at that young age. I think one of the things that I'm probably more thinking is that the fans need to understand it as well, because there are going to be times when you sometimes see it around here, don't you, when someone makes a bad pass or stuff like that. But I think as fans, and we've been saying that very much on the podcast, is that we have to support them. They're not the finished product. So I think fans also have to be more accommodating with that, because the model, we have a really, really young side on that sport. and the experienced pros, we don't have loads. So you hear some groans and stuff like that. But I think as we move through the seasons, I think fans are going to have to get behind that and understand very much what the model is, because I'm assuming that's what we're going to do moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of pressure. It's not even about the size of the stadium or the amount of fans they're playing in front of. It doesn't matter if you're playing in front of a couple hundred fans. They can still create a lot of pressure on the player. So it's about getting to a point where people, if that's our philosophy, the homegrown and hungry and developing younger talent. And yes, you mentioned there's some moans, but I think they're in the minority, Matt. By quite a large majority. So fans are obviously entitled to their opinions, and football is very subjective like that. People have a lot of opinions, but I think the key is recognising the fact that some of these players are very young, and they will make mistakes, and it's the more we get behind them, the more we support them, the quicker they'll develop, the more confident they'll get.
I mean, sort of skipping ahead, but it's made me think when you talk about these things, and with this move coming up, and you expect and anticipate we're going to have bigger crowds and more people coming to watch us and attracting new fans. And do you anticipate, it's quite a big leap here, but a change in the culture in that regard? Like you say, we have got a very, I'd say, patient fan base. We do have, like you said, we've got those that do get frustrated and what have you, but as a general rule, you say we're very supportive of the young players, we're very patient and what have you. Do you think we've got a little bit of a job on to ensure that continues, or do you think that's just going to be naturally embedded in the culture of the club?
Yeah, it's a difficult one. I think a lot of people would say that as you get a larger playing budget, that perhaps you bring in more experienced players, and the number of younger players might reduce. Again, it's all about going back to that question of merit. And if we've got younger players who are capable of contributing, to the same level as more experienced players that we may bring in, why wouldn't they play? So I think the culture is, we want to stay that sort of homegrown and hungry, and still offer that opportunity to younger players, because I think there are a lot of advantages to that. We also as a club need to become probably more of a selling club. We haven't in the past. But player sales can be a huge contributing factor to a club's revenues, and it's probably something that we've not exploited in the past, and I think we need to move more in that model, because certainly as a fan-owned club without the deep pockets of an owner, we need to realise as much revenue as we can from every source that there is. So that's something that we'll move towards, and everyone knows that that's really where the money comes from, in terms of those sort of younger players, but who have had maybe a couple of years in the team and are really starting to show their potential. That's where the value is. So
it's interesting, because over the years, going back to Wimbledon and winning the Premiership, we always were a selling club. That was always the case. But every season we would always sell to sort of balance the books as such. So we'd always have a price on a player, and we'd always sell. Is that a similar thing we're looking at? It's in terms of making sure. So I'll give you an example. Toby Civic this year we let go during the summer. It was undisclosed, but there was some rumours coming out what the value is. My personal point of view is I think it's important to maximise and get the money, because that side of it, and then reinvest. Is that something that we're going to look at in terms of, would it be a case that during the summer we might have a few players that we know people might be interested in, and we sell to then reinvest within the squad?
Yeah, you always know which players attracted interest. The scouts come down, you hear a lot of talk going on, and that's part of football, really. And actually, sort of at our level, if you've got a player that is, of a good playing level, it's very hard to keep hold of them. Particularly when clubs are up, in the higher division, offering more money, it's going up to a higher league. It's hard to keep hold of them.
Yeah.
It's hard to keep them motivated. We want to try, but again, a lot of it's about sort of protecting ourselves. And making sure we're in a position to maximise that opportunity when it comes. Like I said, it's not something that we're necessarily looking to push players out. Certainly not, because actually, if they're good enough, they're going to contribute to your sporting results as well. So it's a win-win. It's always about a balance. We've got to find a balance between maintaining the squad, maintaining good results, but also optimising that talent when the time comes. So that's really the focus. Yes, there are things we can do to make sure that when the time comes we're in a better position to maximise that opportunity, and that's what we're focused on doing. Not necessarily saying, right, we're going to start sending all our players. It's just saying that when we want to get in a position where we're able to have, playing assets that are sellable, and when we do, that we make the most of it.
Well, currently in League One, after Saturday's result, we are 8 points above the relegation zone, above Tranmere, who have got a couple of games in hand, but our goal difference is far superior. Just very quickly, in a word, yes or no, are we staying up?
Yes.
This weekend is a big...
If you said no, we'd just stop the interview there.
I knew it was coming, that's pretty quick.
I am 100% certain we are staying up this season. Stu is 100% certain we're staying up this season.
Yeah, we've got the games in our hand. Bolton coming here. Not going to be an easy game, but Bolton coming here. And Tranmere on the 21st. So, I think we should be okay.
And George is 100% confident, George, yes?
Yeah, of course. We've got the games coming up. I mean, I'm confident we'll get results in them, and that should be enough.
It should be enough. So Saturday would be a great place to start. I'll just run through some very quick stats for Bolton so we'll get this preview out of the way for the next game. So, do you know, I couldn't believe this, we've had 17 previous meetings with Bolton in our history, but only 6 of them have been at home. Because in the 1990s, we were drawn away to them in the League Cup on 5 occasions. I thought that must have been... It didn't feel like that at the time, but it must have been every other season we were going to Bolton in the League Cup.
Yeah, was it Burnham Park, wasn't it? Is that right?
With the supermarket on the edge.
I used to love it. A funny story, years ago when we first went there midweek, Stanley Reid, who was... what his role was...
Cheese and ham.
Chairman, but he'd always come over to the fans and say hello and stuff like that. Well, Bolton, I don't think you've ever seen Bolton's old ground, but it's basically built up on it's probably about 5 metres down. It was like, and I remember him coming over and everyone was going, stop, and he's going, hey, wait me, and the steward had to come on and stop him because he had just gone down the slope. It was built on because there was a shopping.
Supermarket.
Yeah, I used to love. I like the old grounds though. I don't know about you. I get a bit fed up with the Southamptons and the Boroughs, and they all look the same, don't they? That sort of side. I know we're going to talk about the ground and that side of it, but yeah, Bolton's. I love playing Bolton.
Be very careful about talking about sort of grassy hills in Bolton.
I do remember one we played Bolton in a league. We played Bolton in a League Cup once. I'll never forget it. It was League Cup, and it went to extra time. We were rubbish. It was when Peter Beardsley was playing for Bolton, and that's how far back it was. And we were frozen. We wanted to get back on the coach, get home. We weren't going to win the game. And literally in the first minute of extra time, Peter Beardsley scored. And we were like, why could you not just done that? 5 minutes earlier, we could have all gone home.
Yeah.
But yeah, so some interesting...
Yeah, and I love sort of quirky stadiums. You've got like the Braga Stadium with one end, which is basically just a huge rock.
Yeah, they were
and they just look. They're really interesting. I mean, I managed to go to Independiente Stadium, and got this perfect sort of 3-sided, very high stands, and at one end it's like almost completely open, but it looks over the entire city. And it's stunning, at sundown. It looked absolutely amazing when you sat at the stadium to see that. Yeah. And then, wow, it looked special. But I mean, even Ukraine, you had these sort of throwback Soviet era stadiums that they were athletic tracks with a bit of grass in the middle. And one of the old Shakhtar Stadium actually had what's known as a terracon, or in English terms, a slag heap, basically that ran up from one end. And during a match, they used to have 100,000 people sat on the side of the terracon looking into the stadium as well. And it's amazing. And they're all miners sat there with their hats on watching the game. But I mean, that sort of stuff's amazing. And even when you go to Sheffield, Sheffield Wednesday, the cop stand there is built effectively on the same thing, on a slag heap. So it's, it's quite common, to sort of plonk people on a big mound, effectively, and something quite romantic about that, isn't it?
I mean, did you or have you ever experienced the Feltham Arena? Because this is sounding very similar to that, to be honest. I mean, obviously with the gorgeous views of Feltham in the background. Yeah, I'm not sure what's there. I'm not sure if it's still there or what's left of it. There wasn't much left of it when we played there, so we'll have to get some images up of that one.
Yeah, please do. I want to see that.
It brings me on actually quite nicely. So you've done quite a lot about Shakhtar and obviously the troubles but when I was looking actually back through the actual football side of it, I was actually quite surprised how well they did in terms of... It looked like once they got to sort of like the final 16 or the quarters, that's when the big boys come in. But I noticed in terms of losing to Barcelona 6-1 in aggregate, and Borussia Dortmund and Bayern Munich 7-0 one game. Not to go on the defeats, but how was it in terms of going into that sort of environment and the big boys coming to visit the Nets, and also you probably going away as well?
Yeah, I mean it was fabulous. There's no getting around that. You know, when you're getting to go to all the sort of greatest clubs in Europe, you know, the legendary clubs in Real Madrid, Barcelona, Juventus, all that lot. It was a great time. And what was always interesting is we knew sometimes when you go away, you know, and you're up against Messi and co at Barcelona, it's going to be tough. But we always knew when you're in Ukraine, you've got a chance. And we beat Chelsea, beat Arsenal. You know, we had some really good results at home, and those were magical nights. You know, really, really special nights, because there's no way a team from a town called Donetsk in the far reaches of Ukraine should be able to compete on the Champions League level with, you know, the European greats. So you can imagine when you did win those games, it was pretty special. It was a great experience, and you know, at that time, Shakhtar was really in the ascendancy, and we had some very great players that have gone on, you know, the likes of Willian and Mkhitaryan and Fernandinho, you know, all over the place. Really great players. So at one point, I know there was a lot of talk about that Shakhtar had one of the best midfielders in Europe. I certainly wouldn't argue with that at the time, but could have done with a better defence as well. But yeah, the Brazilians aren't known for their defensive capabilities. So yeah, it was always about attack, you know. And when we were attacking, it was great. But yeah, we could sometimes come unstuck with some of the more tactical teams, and you know, the really big boys. But it was always very magical. Champions League nights are, but yeah, we to have that amount of superiority in your league, you know, we sort of won the league title constantly year after year, so it was quite interesting because you could go a whole season without losing a league game, and when we did, I was always really excited. I said, it's good for us to lose. And everyone was saying, what are you talking about? Are you crazy? We can't lose. And I said, you need competition. Competition is important. It's important to keep football interesting. You know, competition is the key word in football. It doesn't exist if there's not competition. The Premier League wouldn't be as global as it wasn't if it wasn't competitive. You know, so you know that was the situation, and obviously there was two very strong teams in Ukraine, and it made it quite difficult for me. It could get a bit boring. You know, it was always Dynamo or Shakhtar. So, you know, obviously having losses like that, you know, in the Champions League sort of brought it back down to earth again and made you realise that you were, you know, you weren't invincible. So, yeah, it was a great time. But you know, there's only so far I think you can go. You know, yes, money can do a lot for you, you know, in those countries, but you know, it's very difficult to attract a squad that you might find in Barcelona or Real Madrid. In those countries, you can go a long way to get in there, but very difficult, you know, when you're in a league like that where, you know, you don't have huge visibility.
Because I noticed that very much it was a Brazilian not focused team, but how did you attract them in the end? Because a lot of times the Brazilians would go to Spain in terms of language and that sort of side of it. Was it easy to attract them? Because also if it's not competitive, you know, I'm thinking about Celtic, from what I'm saying, but Celtic will find the same problem because they will win most of their games, and then they go into a game and they've got, PSG have the same situation in the French league. Absolutely. Was it easy to attract them Brazilian players?
It was all about getting one, and then getting two. So once you get two, then there's a party, isn't there? You know. So so I think Brandao was one of the first that went there, and then I can't remember when Methuselah or Jadson came. And once they got the two, then it made it a lot easier to bring in others. And they all quickly sort of joined after that point. You know, Fernandinho came, and then Willian, and it escalated. And it got to a point, I think 2012-13, there were 13 Brazilians in the squad.
Wow.
You know, so you actually then had a proper community. So actually getting Brazilian players to come was easy, because you had all their families there, so it was great for the wives and girlfriends. I mean, they brought everyone, brothers, sisters, the hairdressers. They literally brought everybody over, and it was brilliant because they had a really good community there, and they were really happy. They absolutely loved it there. Everyone was like, you know, how do they adapt to the cold weather and the snow and everything? But They loved it. They weren't the ones wearing the gloves. You know, they just loved playing football. You know, they were getting paid good money, and you know, because they're surrounded by, you know, a culture or people that are the same as them. It was, you know, it made it really easy for them. So yeah, it would surprise you, but the key was just once you get two, then you can start to get, you know, bring them more in because they feel more comfortable with that in the squad.
So I was going to wrap up the next side of it. I noticed Messi scored a winner when they, I think at Donetsk, and there's an interesting picture of you back when you were at the Bernabeu. Must have been many years ago when I was looking for a report. You were at the Bernabeu with one of a very younger picture.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, I think it was an independent report.
Stu's these days looking on Google images. Like,
No, because I was really...
I don't think I had grey hair then, did I?
No, you didn't. No, but that's obviously... We'll cover onto that with Wimbledon, won't we? But I noticed that I think that game lost 4-3 and Ronaldo scored a couple. So I suppose the old adage thing is, who's better, Messi or Ronaldo?
Ronaldo.
Really?
For me, Messi he's an artist, isn't he? You know, he's technically superb, you know, great dribbling ability and very exciting. But for me, he's in a squad in Barcelona that is built around him, and his style of football is very much his comfort zone.
Yeah.
For me, Ronaldo, I put Ronaldo as number one because he has done it and proved it in different leagues, different clubs, and consistently done it. So I think that's for me what gives it the edge, and I think he's got more in terms of his all-round ability. I think in where he, you know, in terms of sort of heading capability and his in other areas of the pitch. I that's why I would put, you know, take him, just because he's, you know, he's more of a, I guess if I was in that position where you're buying one of them, you know, he's the less riskier option because he's proved it.
Yeah. Great.
I mean, well, I had one question about Shakhtar we haven't got on here. 2010, is that when you first went over? Mm-hmm. Do you have any recollection of playing Fulham?
Yes.
Very shortly after.
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Did you?
It was my pretty much the first game.
I was really that early. Did you come? So you were. Let's get you right. So were you born in London? Have I got that right, or have got that completely
born up
wrong?
near Cambridge.
Wow. Okay. All right. So did you come over? You obviously went over to live in Ukraine.
Yeah. So I had a sports marketing agency here in London.
Right.
And I had that for about 5 years, and I met a guy that was studying over here. I wanted to take some sports marketing expertise out to Ukraine. So I went out, we met some players, met clubs, discussed how we could help them develop, and met Shakhtar. This was in 2009. Met Shakhtar and they said, look, you know, we're looking to develop we've just built this new stadium, just won the UEFA League, UEFA Cup, and we need help to develop a strategy to take us to the next level. So I came and did that, and the rest was history, really. But yeah, that was, so I obviously flew out there. I think it was very early January, stepping off the plane, it was like -20, and I thought, oh my God, where have I come? And and obviously they're in the winter break there, so there wasn't any football going on. They'd flown off to Dubai, I think, having their winter training camp. And then so the first game was effectively, you know, coming back home to Fulham. So it was quite funny being there. I do remember the game really well. It was a game we probably should have drawn, if not won. You know, we had our chances, but you know, they were very defensively, very well organised at that point, as you know, as you'd expect. But I do remember that.
Yeah. And then after Shakhtar, because I've noticed you there, you're saying we in reference to Shakhtar. Is that the case with Sheffield Wednesday as well? Would you refer to Sheffield Wednesday?
Yeah, don't read too much into that. It's a speech. I'm trying to put myself back into that time.
It's natural, we would do it.
Well, yeah. It's just it's a natural thing. I always use that term of reference. I sort of obviously, you know, when the war kicked off in 2014. You know, I had to come back to get out of the war zone. So I came back, and we were trying to. At that point, it was horrible. I mean, it was really very up in the air. You don't know what's going to happen. People at that time were thinking, well, when might we be back at Donetsk? We might be back in a year or 2 years, or who knows? And the longer you're sort of out, the more you're thinking this might never happen. And it was really tough trying to understand what you do next, because it's totally out of your hands. You know, can't determine when you're going to be back in the stadium. So our fans are all displaced all over the country, in different cities. It's very difficult to engage with them. You're playing football in a city that is not is not your city. You're borrowing someone else's stadium. You're trying to find fans in that city that will come and watch your game. It's people can't really understand that situation. It's very difficult. So there was a lot of discussions and trying to understand, do we need to look at a new strategy? What could it be? So we started to look at international development, and I took them on tour to Brazil and the US, and obviously Brazil was an obvious market for us, and see how we could develop that. But it's not an easy thing to do in Brazil, and ultimately I think it just got to the point where I felt that I wasn't able to contribute anymore, and I thought I need to get back into to English football, particularly. As English football is very different to European football. There's very much a bubble around it, and I felt I needed to get back into there again. So looked for an opportunity, and one came up at Sheffield Wednesday, and it was again not too dissimilar to the challenge here. It's an old sleeping giant, and one that there was a lot of work to do to bring it up to the level that it needed to, and so it was a challenge again, which is what I was looking for. A club that had offered a real challenge. So ended up working up there for a bit. It didn't work out for various reasons, and obviously it was also by that point I'd been away from home for quite a good many years, and I think I owed it to my wife to finally be around to help a little bit more with the kids and to see the kids.
Yeah.
I didn't want to.
Did you move up there? Did you?
I was up there sort of most of the week, and then I'd come back for weekends when there weren't matches, and they'd come up. But that's a lot of travelling. I can tell you, going up and down the M1 is not the most enjoyable experience. So so then when the opportunity came up to come to Wimbledon, it was the opportunity to become part of one of what I feel is the greatest narrative in football, and building the new stadium, coming back to Wimbledon. I mean, it's a great challenge, and one that I really wanted to be a part of.
I mean, Shaftesbury and Sheffield Wednesday, like you say, huge clubs. We wouldn't pretend to be on that level at all. But are there lessons you learned from your roles at those two clubs that can be applied to or scaled to a club this size?
100%. Yeah, 100%. I'm always a big believer in going back to basics and do the basics well. Do them really well, do them really professionally, and you'll see, you'll reap the benefits. I said, and that was effectively what I tried to do at both the other clubs, was actually, let's focus on not trying to run before we can walk. Let's not try and do lots and lots of fancy stuff. There's lots of technology out there. Loads of people are doing this, and these apps and all this sort of stuff, and they end up just getting pulled in so many different directions that they sort of lose a bit of focus on what they're actually trying to achieve. And I think you've got to sort of strip it back. Let's get good systems in place, get them working well, and then you can build from that. And I see the opportunity to do that here as well, and particularly in going into the new stadium is the perfect catalyst for a lot of that change, and putting in an infrastructure and a foundation where we can really grow from in a professional way. And that's the key thing for me. It's about professionalisation and putting right structures in place and doing things, the basics well.
Obviously, you go back to December with the Dons Trust. That was it. Was it a special meeting? I can't remember when it was now. But I think that probably showed exactly what you were saying, because it was interesting for me actually, because you were reasonably quiet within that meeting, and then you did. I think Luke McKenzie asked you a question of what your thought was, and you basically said fan zone club and that sort of side of it. So is it a case that you're looking for that direction from the fans? So I think we quite easily answered the question about fan ownership. We've raised £5.4 million on the bond. I suppose a quick question on that. Did that we always at Wimbledon we always achieve the impossible. That's what I always say. We always achieve the impossible. Did that surprise you? Because there was quite a lot of people going, we can raise a bond, and I remember the conversation. Can you put £1,000 in? Can you put £2,000 in? Can you put £3,000 in? Did that surprise you?
Yes and no. I think it surprised me from the point of view that I thought fans may be a little bit tired bit worn out of giving money over the years.
Yeah.
I think that did resonate in my mind that might be the case.
Yeah.
But then I was really, really happy to see that wasn't, and the fans were very much taking their ownership very responsibly and seriously by showing it's time to invest. We're the owners. We need to put in the money, and that was amazing to see. I have to say, really fantastic, and it's been a great experience. I mean, sometimes you need to get to that point, in terms of the context of the bond,
Yep.
where it really was at a critical make or break stage. That's what drives people. But I'm very pleased and in awe of the fact that the fans understood, jumped straight on it, and raised it so quickly. I mean, it's amazing.
It was a phenomenal achievement with the amount of money we've raised, and we got an update this week about in terms of still looking for bank loan and what have you, and things like that. Not going to ask you things like that, but in general, is that something now that you're working day to day with? Is that like
I've been working day to day with that for a long time. No, absolutely, with the bond guys. Yeah, I speak to them most days.
In terms of the loan stuff, like
everybody. So we have been working with the bond guys as well in terms of loans as well. There's a few individuals. Graham Price, has been really helpful. His sort of financial background has been a great asset to that, and we're opening some new avenues as well as still continuing with the ones that we had open. And I think we're all confident we'll get there fairly soon. As you know, it's always been a timing issue, and everyone knows the issues we had with the loans in relation to trying to get loans at probably the worst time of that there could be. That's made it really difficult. I think the fact that we're all pretty confident, within that group, that's a really positive sign. So, yeah.
In terms of, like I said, the strategy, you were talking about asking the fans what we want, where people think they go. We've had a recent survey. I think it was initiated by Don's Trust. I could be wrong, regarding ticketing, ticket prices and things like that. First thing I want to notice from it, I just noticed was, and I mentioned this to you the other day, was he says as he loses the exact statistic, our biggest demographic in responding to that survey was 41 to 60, the age range of respondents, by a long way.
You're just outside that, weren't you?
I am. Yeah, about 15 years.
I know Kevin wasn't too happy that he was in there. Yeah. As you get older, you sit in a different bracket, don't you? You sort of like, you want to lie, don't you?
So, look, I can't be sitting there saying, I'm that old. It just doesn't seem right.
But that is something we perhaps that's always been a concern with us at this club, is that is always seemed to be the case, that that older demographic have been the ones most involved in these sorts of issues, these debates, Don's Trust meetings, all that sort of thing. Is that something that is going to be remedied or can be remedied, or is that just a fact of life, essentially?
I think it's a fact of the situation where we are. I think we've probably struggled to bring in more younger fans simply because of the facilities that we've had here. Most of the seats have been sold out, season tickets over a long period, and so it's very difficult for families, younger kids, to bring them in because there just isn't space. We sell out quite a lot of our seats nearly every match day.
Yeah.
And we just can't bring more people in. Most people don't want to bring their family and go and stand in the Rygas. It's just a reality, and that's probably we're a victim of the stadium we're in. I think has made that an issue and made it difficult to reach out to younger groups. But I think this is where the new stadium is an amazing asset, is because it's going to enable us to bring in a larger, younger demographic. We've got a lot of plans in the stadium to reach out and create new groups, new fan groups, specifically for kids, membership schemes, and also a family zone, that type of thing, more activities. So we are, in our mind, there's a lot we can do to reach out, and we absolutely will be.
We are quite limited here, aren't we? I remember back to Wimbledon and went with the crazy gang, the funny crazy gang. But it attracted a lot of kids. That sort of is that because obviously if you look back through your career, strategy is a massive thing you do. Is that something you're looking forward to doing? Because I think here we've sort of in a way got a little bit. There's so much you can do in a stadium, isn't there? And I'm very much looking at match day atmosphere, match day. If you look at a lot of other clubs, it's very much trying to sell. So if you come in here at 1:30 or 1:45, there's not much you can do with this ground. The speaker system is literally dying on its side.
Black side.
Well, no, but if Mikey T
I didn't realise we had a speaker system.
if Mikey T turns up too loud, it just blows. But we're looking at though, because to attract the kids. If you think about the area we're in, with Brentford, Fulham, QPR, Millwall, all that sort of. Are we looking to make it a proposition? Because we do need the next generation.
We need to. We absolutely do, and they are very good at at targeting the younger families and kids. But we have our area, and we need to be able to offer the same, if not better, than they do. That was also one of the things that really attracted me here. Was I think I mentioned the other day was at my kids' school. Was sort of they brought in. All of a sudden Chelsea to do their PE lessons, and I remember thinking, I was so incensed by it. I just said, this isn't right. This is a Wimbledon area. Why aren't we here? And that was something that's really been a bugbear for me, ever since. And I'm determined to turn that around. And I'd love to see Wimbledon going to the schools that my kids going everywhere. I want to see Wimbledon, the Wimbledon brand, everywhere. That's the sort of vision I see, particularly in that catchment. I see, if you divide up London into like a pizza, we've got a little slice that comes out like that. It goes all the way from sort of the top of, I guess, not quite as far as Putney, but Earlsfield, and it comes all the way out down to sort of Epsom, Surrey. That sort of area, I think is a great catchment there for us. We've done some modelling. It's probably just under 1 million. People, I think there's a potential pool that we can be working with, and we have to start the process, of really doing that, whether that's through the foundation, whether that's through the activities and the marketing that we're doing. It's a combined effort, and we need to be reaching out to all this new audience, and it's really exciting. For me, that's the exciting.
Yep.
Engaging with a lot of new people as well. Come to the game and giving them a great experience where they're going back to their schools and going home and talking about how wonderful it is and bringing their friends and their parents and everybody down, and that's a position we really want to get into.
I realised in part of the survey there was reference to perhaps season ticket prices and perhaps discounts for or cheaper season tickets if you're attending more games. I guess that's tying into that to try and attract people and things like that. Is that also part of a reaction to the issue we had previously in terms of season tickets that are being sold, not necessarily being used? And by giving that encouragement of, well, next season, turn up for 23 games, you're going to get 2% off or whatever it might be.
Yeah, it's a loyalty program, and loyalty, football is ultimately based. A lot of people talk about spend, but I hate that as a loyalty measure. For me, attendance is the number one thing. That really shows. I know a lot of people can't always get to every game, but there's things in place that enable them to give their ticket back, that type of stuff. But for me, that ability to incentivise fans, because what you have typically is you've got your season ticket holders, and they're probably, the attendance is probably around 70%. So if you sold the whole stadium to season tickets, you're only going to you never have a full stadium. And actually, you don't want to be in a situation where a lot of clubs are now, like Chelsea. They're having to build a whole new stadium or extend it to be able to attract new people into football. That's a really big issue. With a lot of English clubs have always been focused on selling as many season tickets as possible. I get it, from a cash flow point of view. But when you look at like Germany, where it's sort of 55-60%. It then enables you to sell more matchday tickets. You have to be more proactive. But with matchday tickets, the attendance is about 90%. So actually, you've got that opportunity to fill much more of the stadium. People are coming in, they're drinking, they're spending more in other areas. So, we want to have enough seats that we can attract a lot more people onto a game and a match day and let them experience the Wimbledon experience. Because if it's all season tickets, we have a situation a bit like we do here, where you can't really introduce new fans.
Yeah, that's my son about that. Actually,
that's right.
It sort of brings me to a point, actually, because I noticed. He's obviously. He
agrees with me.
Definitely. Yeah. Obviously, I've got a little boy, so I'm obviously one of the things that did interest me was the difference of. There was a question about 7-year-olds and 16-year-olds in terms of pricing. So, are you looking at a different, or just?
We're considering, can you just sort of say a blanket below 18 basketball, or is there opportunity to get really cheap for younger age kids? So it's just, like I said, we're really keen to get that feedback so that we can then start to look, because there's a lot of options, and a lot of clubs have found benefit from having more groups, different age range groups at different prices. So yeah, we need to look. We want to take in that data and analyse it and see what we can do with it.
So one of the things I noticed when you were at Sheffield Wednesday, one of the things that my bugbears here is catering and stuff like that. I think if you compare it to some other places we go, I think there's more local produce and stuff like that. It's always been one of my bugbears. I noticed at Sheffield Wednesday you took it from outhouse to in-house. How did that go? How did you find that? And is that something you would consider?
So I did it at Shakhtar as well.
Okay.
Yeah, so I did it at both places. Yeah, I mean, it was for us. It depends on the partner you're with. At the time at Sheffield Wednesday, it was just felt that we weren't getting the quality that we wanted to give to the fans, and maybe weren't making the profits that we felt we could. We felt comfortable in being able to take it in-house, so that was sort of motivating factor. When we took it in, it's about having good people.
Yeah.
So we had a really good exec chef, who almost acted as a GM as well. He was very much in control, understood all the dynamics of catering on a match day, whether it's hospitality or GA, general admission.
Yeah.
So it really was being comfortable with the people we had around us and the ability for us to take that on, which we did, and it was great. We did see massive upturn in terms of the quality that was being produced, particularly in hospitality. And the guests that we had in there were a lot happier with what they were receiving that season, and also in the GA we were able to bring in, up to that point it was burgers, hot dogs and chips. We brought in pizzas, we brought in curries, we brought in what I consider some of the best pies we ever had, and pies that we designed ourselves. So the chef created his own recipe and the company made it. So you're at a totally different level, and for fans that's brilliant. We had one pie in particular that was very popular in the winter time. It was a chili chocolate and steak. Sounds odd, but it was phenomenal, and the fans absolutely loved it because it had a little bit of spicy heat in it, and it was perfect. So those little things, and the sort of things that it's the sort of place I'd love to get to. But obviously recognising, it's all about new partnerships now, and outsourced catering providers are taking a very different view to football stadiums now. They're not taking that old approach where it's just trying to get as high a margin as possible, because they know fans are much more discerning and they won't accept just burgers and hot dogs anymore. They've got to be gourmet burgers, and they've got to be, really nice chips with all kinds of toppings on top of them, and pulled pork.
Yep.
And also not forgetting the growing vegan and vegetarian sector, which is now up to about 30%, which is massive. It's huge. You can't take that same old model. We have to be able to offer the quality. So the outsourced caterers have now taken that on board. They're looking at different models of how they work with clubs, quite often more in a joint venture style arrangement. So I think their change now, the way they've changed their attitudes and changed their models, means that actually there's a lot more benefit to be had with working with them as well. So, we're still open. We're still going through that decision-making process at the moment. But there's a lot of things that we need to weigh up and balance in terms of, obviously the risk in terms of opening it ourselves or letting an outsourced partner take that risk.
Yep.
There's a lot of things to consider. So we're going through that process at the moment.
Yeah, something else Sheffield Wednesday thought being brought in-house was the kit. I'm just referencing it because I'm looking over at our very first AFC Wimbledon kit from 2002.
And it's sold really well.
And what I am amazed at is that there is a kit there with sponsors logo intact, 100%.
It come off all the time, didn't it?
Oh, my one was done within a week, I think, of having
It
it.
almost looks like it's a fabric patch
It on, isn't it? It literally is. That's what it is.
Fantastic.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Well, we had some, let's call them great kits in the early days of Wimbledon. Are we due a new kit next season? New home kit?
No, we are. New home kit, yes, we are.
Okay. Has any thought been given to any sort of speciality or anything like that? Or is that
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So
and on the away kit as well.
So I did notice you've done a 150-year anniversary, didn't you? And they're still, it's Elevate, isn't it? And they're still Sheffield Wednesday now.
Yeah, so Elevate I created, it was a new brand, created that from scratch, brought in the team to run it. I mean, it was quite a process when you're trying to run a football club as well, to launch a clothing brand as well. It was pretty tough there. I started to go grey then, I can tell you that. And it was a great experience, obviously, working with factories directly in China to do that. And who knows what might happen in the future. We've got to do what we feel is the best opportunity for us. It will certainly be interesting to see how the new stadium affects our current sales volume of shirts, and make decisions from there. But, it was certainly right for Sheffield Wednesday at the time. They sold, I think, about 30,000 shirts at the time. So, you could really, make a big difference in the deal, by going direct to the factory. But with smaller quantities, we don't know. So, that's something that it was a great experience to me. I now know how to do it. So it's a nice skill to have, and something else I can maybe add to our bow down the line, if it's something that we're interested in doing.
Would you consider a pink kit as an away kit?
We used to vote, didn't we? Do you remember the days we used to vote?
Would I? It's not down to me, is it?
No,
would I consider it? Would I?
Would
certainly
you like one. Would you yourself buy one?
I probably not.
Okay.
Probably not.
I've been trying for so many years.
I prefer black. I love
black
kits and classy.
It was funny with the kits as well, because fans used to submit their design, and you always knew the one that Mark Jones done. You always knew. You always won, and I was like, yeah, that's Jonesy's. We'll pick that one. So
I've been taken out to Turkey to see the gift for the 8th year in a row.
Always did that.
First made terms with the kit makers.
But then saying that, I didn't like the green kit, the green striped kit. I remember seeing that, and I.
Okay.
I've noticed you in our sort of green one that we've got, third kit.
Yeah, I don't mind that. But when I saw the green one, the striped green one.
Oh, that was.
Well, I do remember a story. One year when I went to, I think it was Exeter, with Trev and Rocky. I was helping out with a kit that day, and Bayo had lime green boots, and I remember saying he's going to look like a giant bogey. And Trev told him.
I like that level of honesty. That's a good,
Bayo, I think Bayo's the only person I've ever seen scare people coming. When he's first signed Bayo, he come in with Danny Borman, and he come in, and you could just see people, like his arms were bigger than most people's legs. Bayo was just the most intimidating character, but kind as anything.
Imagine me sitting opposite him at the kids' sponsors dinner. It was ridiculous. It looked ludicrous. It was like a scene out of Twins with Danny DeVito and Arnold. Just like in a different sort of way. Anyway, very conscious of time at the moment, so
I've got to pick up the kids. I've just realised.
I was going to say. So we'll shoot through. Very quick, just to go back, we didn't actually finish off talking about Bolton very quickly. So Bolton, rubbish form. We played on Saturday. They've only won once since the turn of the year. Very quick score prediction from
2-0.
Stu.
I think it's going to be a tight game, actually. I think they're decent on the form at the moment. If you look at them, they're not getting battered, are they?
Okay.
I think it'd be a very cagey 1-0 win.
Right, George.
2-1 win.
There you go. I said 2-1 last week. I'll say let's have some goals for once. Let's go 3-1. We've got some very quick either/or questions that we do to all our guests. Very simply, first answer that comes into my mind, I'll give you two options.
Oh no, here we go.
No time for pausing or anything like that. Just the first
I get a bash on the head, like
Stu will
start.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So, pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
No.
Would you rather live with your nose as your feet or a foot as your nose?
Nose as my feet.
Yeah, I think I would do that. Golf or rugby?
To play or watch?
Just in general, just either. Could be either. If you pick
rugby.
The correct answer was neither. Chris Perry or Neil Sullivan?
Neil Sullivan.
Joker, Joaquin Phoenix or Heath Ledger?
I haven't seen the new one, so I can't say.
So, okay, fair enough. Monica or Rachel?
Oh, I actually had this conversation down the pub the other day. Honestly, we went round the room like it just got this friends thing, Monica or Rachel, and I said Rachel at the time.
Okay, yeah. She felt bad.
No, I'm to be honest, not particularly fussy.
Mourinho or Pochettino?
Pochettino.
VAR, yes or no?
That's such a hard one to say because I think it's an inevitability. It's just there's I think the game's gone that way. I think it's there to stay.
Okay, be very careful with this one. Luton or Watford?
Well, Luton was the first stadium I ever went to as a kid.
There's a culture shock with it.
Yeah, well, it was when it had the artificial turf.
Oh.
Les Seeley, the goalkeeper. I went down there. Yeah, it was the first time I ever went to a football stadium. So probably Luton.
The correct answer. Well done. Happy days. George Jones, contract extension or sacked?
I think it's got to be contract extension.
First time anyone's ever answered that way. Thank you.
Got another 5 minutes with us, George. And then final question: when you make a cup of tea, do you put the milk in the mug before? Yeah, I've got this all wrong.
I can tell you right now.
The bag
no, you should never have milk and bag mixing together in a teacup. That is wrong.
100%. I think that might be the best answer, or the best answers for that game we've ever had. So Luton tick. Yes. Bag first, tick.
I still remember James Shea, we interviewed him when he left here, and he said milk first, didn't he? Yep. And then we saw him at a game and he realised he'd made an error. Right. And he was literally coming just going, no, can I change it?
A Will Knight was the Watford instead of Luton one, which he still apologises to me to this day for. I'm really sorry. I was like, he's changed it now for Luton. So well done. Stu, do you want to run through Paul Osu?
Yeah, how are we doing for time? You want to shoot?
Yeah, go on.
Okay.
They can wait.
I'll be very quick. So
they're used to it.
Basically, obviously I know you're a Spurs fan, which but you're still a Spurs fan. So basically, Paul Osu is, I'll give you 5 players that they played with first.
Okay.
So this person has played with Chris Houghton,
Yep.
John Gregory, Dennis Wise, Vinnie Jones, and Kenny Cunningham.
He's a former Spurs player.
Former Spurs player.
Played with Kenny Cunningham.
Look at you thinking now as well.
Yeah.
I was going to say Chris Waddle. I don't think that's right.
I'll give you number 2. So this player was managed by David Pleat and Mick McCarthy.
Managed? David Pleat. Oh man, this one's really getting me.
Is there a Luke connection?
No.
Is there an Irish connection?
No.
Mick McCarthy and Kenny Cunningham is screaming Ireland to me.
Yeah, but the David Pleat one is throwing me a bit here.
Yes.
So the final clue, this player would have benefited from VAR in the 80s. Very famous incident.
Well, if it's the 80s, I've got no chance because, 26.
Any ideas, George? This is well before your time.
Yeah, this is considerably before I was even...
Sorry?
Is it one of the Allens?
What one?
Yes is the answer.
Clive?
Yes,
Wow.
Clive Adam.
Get it.
Wow, I'm impressed. I
Yeah.
have no
So
idea.
Kenny Cunningham was when he was at Mill.
Really?
Late on in his career, he was at Mill. Kenny Cunningham was coming through.
Oh,
Vinnie
wow.
Jones, Dennis Wise at Chelsea.
That's right.
John Gregory at QPR.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I always remember Clive Adam with that goal. It's just the funniest thing ever, isn't it?
Stanchion.
But certainly that season, 87, he was unbelievable. He was a goal machine. Great player. Really still was. I did a 5-a-side event with him about 15 years ago. And like a Legends sort of 5-a-side event. And
Yeah.
he came and he started playing. And he was obviously a coach at Spurs at the time. He was phenomenal. Like just ball at his feet. He just knew where he was putting it. Bang. In it went.
Yeah.
Still fantastic.
Yeah, had a really good career. But yeah, I just put a Wimbledon connection. But yeah, Kenny Cunningham was at Millwall for a year, and that's where Mick McCarthy comes in.
Is it stanchion or staunchion?
Stanchion, wasn't it?
I say stanchion, I think.
I still remember in Whinging.
I'm staunchion because
I thought staunchion.
I'd say staunchion actually.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But VAR now would have
Exactly,
cleared that up.
would have done. Yes.
Cool.
Right.
Yeah, we're done in
I
that
think we're
case.
good to go. Joe, thank you very much for your time.
Absolute pleasure.
Much appreciated.
No, absolute pleasure. I owed you the time, so
Not at all.
sorry it took so long.
No. We know you're very busy.
You're super busy.
I imagine the work doesn't even stop now, does it? But at least the fun. But I'm sure the fun bit now is seeing it take place.
Yeah,
and
absolutely. Seeing it go up is.
And the picture's coming in soon. Is that
soon,
right?
yeah, very soon. Probably end of March. Probably start the process. So.
I think that's when it will start. When you see a
yeah.
pitch. I went past there the other day, and you can see pictures of it, but then when you see the size of the stands, I was blown away, and my wife laughs because she knows I'm going to be a bubbling wreck, I think, on that first day.
I think there will be a lot of bubbling wrecks on that, including myself.
I bet. Cool. Well, thank you for your time.
Thinking bubbling wreck, is that new?
I don't know. The only time I cried before that was when I was at the
blubbering.
Blubbering, yeah.
Right.
The only time
I like the bubbling wreck.
The only time I've ever cried at football was the City of Manchester Stadium on the penalty shootout.
Okay, because you had your bad knee at the time, didn't you?
I did.
You were a blubbering wreck.
I'd done my Achilles, and I had to sit at the back of the stand watching penalties.
Right.
Worst thing ever when you can't move around with penalties. But I think that's the only time I probably cried because it was entering back into the Football League with Danny Kedwell. Of course. He was back at the stadium for the
celebrity match.
The celebrity match, which is. Although celebrities sometimes are a bit guided with Love Island. I don't know how that.
Yeah, you know how it goes. What do people consider celebrities these days?
Yeah, it's changed a lot now, hasn't it?
Yeah, no, they're of the time, and that's how it's changed, and culture changes.
Yeah.
And my kids their celebrities are YouTube stars, so the sort of
Yes.
old sort of celebrity, stereotype of being a musician or a movie star is very different nowadays, and these YouTubers are getting far larger audiences than a lot of these other old stars used to.
I might have one last question actually. Mumford & Sons obviously got involved, didn't they? They did a one-off gig at Wimbledon Theatre many years ago. I don't know if the first time I ever saw Mumford & Sons. Possibility they might be at the stadium or something like that. I put you on the spot now.
I couldn't say.
Can we get concerts in that ground?
Not yet. No. But hopefully, that would be great, wouldn't it?
Yeah, very good.
Cool. Thank you very much, Joe. We've just got some very small podcast bits to tie up very quickly because Paul Ossu that we just played, of course, last week we didn't give the answer. Last week was Neil Shipley, correctly identified by Adam Harwood on Twitter at Adam P. Harwood. I've got my minions to look up them on Twitter for me because I'm not on Twitter in a minute because I've given it up for Lent because of social media. Anyway. And then don't forget, Love Sport show on Sunday. It's coming, not Sunday.
Thursdays now, please get this right.
I'm going to move to Thursdays at 10 o'clock with George and Kevin. So if you listen to what would have been last night's show, we think possibly been very interesting from the Plough Lane Bond.
Yes, we're hoping it will be...
No. We got to in the past tense now.
Yes.
Going on Friday.
Yes, it was a brilliant show and it's well worth listening back to.
Well done. We won't sack you just yet. And then updates from Bolton at 9Wireless Podcast on Twitter. Chris will probably have to do that because I ain't going anywhere near Twitter whatsoever. And on that note, Stu,
You're still banning from Twitter. I've been lost about Twitter.
Honestly, you should do it. It's heaven. It's so... I don't know what the word is, but anyway, I would recommend it. Thank you very much, Stu, this week. Thank you, George, for being here. We'll sack you in a minute. And of course, Joe, thank you very much for your time. You're not a wrestling fan, are you?
Can't say I am.
No, not WWE, no. Alexa Bliss probably not mean anything to you.
Who?
Oh, there we go. I'm just signing myself. You've probably just won the hearts of every single podcast listener except for the wrestling fans that are going, oh, Nick's going on. Right, Alexa Bliss, bag first, milk last. We will speak to you again next Friday.